Hello and welcome to my Yu-Gi-Oh channel. Well, it seems to be that we're spoilt for choice these days. First, we got the announcement yesterday of Jim Crocodile Cook getting another fossil monster. Now his actual tanks, the ones he used against, I think it was Kozaki, in Yu-Gi-Oh! Jets Season 3 when he was in the Dark World environment in Duel Monsters when they were dueling. These were the series of monsters that he was using. He also used one of them within a scene riding with some of the other main characters to a different event to try and protect some of the people in that village. Anyway, we'll cover these cards. The first one is Fossil Machine Skull Convoy. It's a level 8 Earth Attribute Rock Fusion Effect monster. 2100 attack, 1800 defense. The materials are 1 rock monster in your graveyard and 1 level 7 or higher monster. It must first be special summoned with Fossil Fusion. 1, while this fusion summoned card is in the monster zone, monsters your opponent controls lose attack equal to their original defense. 2, can make up to 3 attacks on monsters during each battle phase. And 3, when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. This card, and I have to say it, is absolutely amazing. Yes, it is very battle reliant, and so if your opponent is running things that can stop that, this is a massive weakness to the card. And of course, for a level 8, 2100 attack isn't too impressive. You are going to have to try and boost that up before it can be considered any kind of threat. I love the fact that that weakness is actually removed by its first effect, by being able to shut down your opponent's attack points and punish them for their, from using their defense points. That's an amazing thing. Alternatively, I would say that is a bit of a downside as well, because the biggest issue is some heavy attackers have very limited defense. If that's the case, if you've got a monster that has massive attack and 0 defense, I know this is a poor example, but this is one of the more extreme examples. Berserk Dragon, it has 3500 attack and 0 defense. It's not losing a blasted thing for having no defense. That's kind of the out to this card. It does remind me, I think Goki Great Ogre has a similar effect, that it shuts down your opponent's attack based on their defense, and it's a way of punishing them. But this is a way of introducing this effect within the Fossil archetype. The second effect, it can make up to 3 attacks on monsters each battle phase. That is impressive. You are able to almost clear out your opponent's board, and depending on how the first effect works, means you're likely to be able to get over all of your opponent's monsters potentially and make it so that they can't re-establish a board. The third effect works in tandem with the second effect, of course, being able to inflict 1000 points of damage per monster destroyed. If you're getting rid of 3 monsters, you're considering first the battle damage that it will do, even if it's only a 2100 attack monster, plus the 3000 points of burn damage that it does on top of that. This is why I think this card is going to be incredibly impressive, and I'm sure someone will find a way of kind of interacting and breaking that card. The next card is Fossil Machine Skullwagon. This is a level 6 Earth Attribute Rock type Fusion Effect monster. 1700 attack and 1500 defense. The materials are 1 rock monster in your graveyard plus 1 level 5 or 6 monster. It must first be special summoned with Fossil Fusion. You can only use this card's name's third effect once per turn. 1, it can make up to 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase. 2, when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can inflict 800 damage to your opponent. And 3, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 spell or trap card on the field and destroy it. Okay, so this card is a weaker version of the above monster. That makes sense because what they do is with Fossil Fusion, it kind of makes them more powerful. This was used actually within that same duel for Kozaki, but it was just fossil fused into its highest form. It's a weaker form of the original one, which is the highest boss monster on there. But, 2 battles, 2 attacks on monsters is still enough And even if it's a little bit less damage, 800 isn't anything to sneeze at. That's why cards such as Gaga Gag Cowboy used to be a thing. The third part of the effect is being able to get rid of a spell or trap. I don't consider to be neither here nor there. Spell or trap destruction, there's so many cards that you can implement using that. It's probably the weakest and least useful of the effects you can think of. But I can understand why it has to have this. I mean, it could not have had the same massive first effect that was the highest boss monster for it. And the final card, this was the one that was kind of seen with the characters all riding on. This is Fossil Machine Skull Buggy. It's a level 4 Earth Attribute Rock type effect monster, 1400 attack and 1200 defense. The materials, 1 rock monster in your graveyard, and 1 level 4 or lower monster. It must first be special summoned with Fossil Fusion. You can only use this card's name's second effect once per turn. 1, when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can inflict 600 damage to your opponent. And 2, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Add 1 monster that specifically lists the card Fossil Fusion in its text from your deck to your hand. Again, this is the weakest of them. It's the starting one. If you manage to use Fossil Fusion, it goes up to its next one, and then so on and so forth. That's just the design on Fossil Fusion. The 600 points of battle damage are fine, of the effect damage are fine, but with 1400 attack, you're not getting over much. It's going to have to be having some sort of equipment card to it, or you're going to have to shut down your opponent's monster's attack, or do something to get rid of them to trigger this effect. The secondary effect, I would argue, is much better than the third effect of the secondary monster. The reason I say that is because general spell and trap removal is okay, but it's not that great. This lets you search for any monster that specifically lists Fossil Fusion on it, so it provides a consistent search for any of the cards that you really need for your deck.